has a copy so she can show you, because there it is. Someone in the second row bought it, showing the cover. It's called Into the Fringe. At this time, I'd like to introduce this lovely lady from Arkansas who does abduction research, Dr. Karla Turner.
Before I get started, I would like to thank my host and hostess, Monty and Ellen. They made me feel very welcome, a good Texas welcome, and I missed that. I've been gone from the state now for a little over a year. It was so nice to be home and be among very friendly, very warm, and very intelligent, interesting people, and I know we will be friends for a long time. Thank you. Before I begin, I would like to advise those of you who have children in the audience old enough to understand what we're talking about, that some of this material could be very disturbing, and I would like you to know that in advance. I certainly don't want the responsibility for upsetting children. I've never had an audience with children before, so I've never had to say this, but be forewarned, please, and use your discretion if your child is old enough to comprehend what we're discussing. This is not material for children. My name is Karla Turner. I'm 45 years old, married, with one grown son who's also married. My husband served in the Army as a linguist and a finance specialist for almost a decade, and he's now a computer analyst. My son and daughter-in-law both have master's degrees in physics, and they're employed in the electronics and communication industry. For over a decade, I taught college English at NTSU, or the University of North Texas, as it's now so proud to be known. While I was earning a PhD in English, primarily in Anglo-Saxon studies. My ethnic background is Scottish, English, and Native American. I've traveled widely. I make stained glass windows. I'm a professional writer. I have a good relationship with my family, and I love dogs. In other words, I and my family, I want you to realize, are not very different from you and the people around you. All of us are products of this same world, and we have shared for all these years the same reality. I want to stress this because the things I'm going to discuss this evening may seem too fantastic to be true to many of us. Yet I assure you, and I want to assure you by every test I've been able to make, this material, at least at some very important level, is real. Reality is a question right now, and I've got to tell you that up front. And if these things are real, a part of my reality, my family's reality, and many, many other people's realities, rest assured, whether they've touched you personally or not, they are part of your reality because we share this. I feel confident in saying that the abduction of humans by aliens is a fact of our existence, whatever those aliens may be. I'd like to define a couple of terms, and then I want to share with you a little of what it's like to go through such experiences in the beginning. But more importantly, I want to present some of the data about these alien abductions, which I've gathered working with an excellent researcher, Barbara Barker at Tulsa, Oklahoma, from over 400 cases, which I think is a fairly large number from which we can draw some patterns of data. And this data raises several questions, at least in my mind, that have enormous implications for who we are and the world we live in. First, by alien, I mean creatures which are not human. And whether these beings are from some other planet, from a different dimension, or from some non-corporeal or spiritual source, I am not making any claims. By abduction, I mean the forcible removal of a person from his normal environment. Now, there are people, and probably people here, who say they've encountered alien beings without being taken anywhere, or who have gone with these beings willingly. That's not what I'm talking about. Forcible removal of a person by non-human beings from the normal environment. And by far, the greater number of the people with whom Barbara and I have worked emphatically say they have not given permission for these abductions to occur. For the most part, these abductees have told us that they wish these encounters had never happened, and that they are alarmed, at least initially, by their experiences. Now, some of them, as I will be pointing out shortly, have suffered physical pain and emotional trauma, disruption of their lives from these abduction encounters. In my own family, my husband Casey, my son, daughter-in-law, stepson, both of my in-laws, my brother, and my sister-in-law, as well as myself, have all had experiences with UFOs in their occupants. Several close friends have also had these encounters. And this isn't unusual, as those of you who are familiar with abduction research. And how many of you have been reading in the abduction phenomenon? Am I preaching to the choir about the basics? Okay. Then you probably know that there's a clustering effect that seems to occur with the abduction experience. For instance, when a new abduction case or potential abduction case comes to us, one of the very first things we do in the pre-investigation stage is interview close family and friends. And almost, I won't say in every case, but in many, many cases, other potential cases turn up. Now, typically, as you know then from your reading, abductions begin in early childhood and they continue intermittently throughout a person's life. In our cases, my family's cases, this is also true. My husband, for instance, was first abducted at the age of 11 months, believe it or not, while riding in the car with his father in the foothills of the Sierra Mountains in Northern California. The date was Labor Day 1947, so you can do a little quick math and see how close this was to the very famous Kenneth Arnold sightings, also, which took place also along the upper West Coast. The car then traveling in was stopped on the road by a blinding white light. Casey's father was frozen at the wheel, holding the steering wheel, and four small gray cartoon-like creatures, as my husband referred to them, came to the car and took him from the car as a child in their arms. He could feel their reality, the flesh beneath the coverings. Carried him in their arms to a small craft, and then he was taken along with them to a much, much larger craft where he was given into the care of a being who did examinations and other particular things with him. And this creature was not like the little cartoon characters. This creature was larger, deeply wrinkled skin, and almost insectoid-like features. And as this creature, which my husband refers to as the old one, I think it's sort of similar to Strieber's woman or female that Ed was talking about earlier, as this being held him, he was allowed to touch the mouth of this creature. This was not the little slit line that never moves as we see on the faces of the grays. This was a large oval opening. And inside of this, he was able to feel very soft, spongy-like structures in the place of teeth.